Hey team, welcome to this podcast, this sharing on something that I think is going to help you enormously as it comes to this part of the year. Now, I'm recording this on the 29th of December, and there's a natural tendency for especially all of us to start to use, I always call it mid-Christmas. There's a 3 to 5 day period between Christmas Day and New Year where there's a natural tendency to reflect on what has been. And if you haven't done that, honestly, it's really, really important that you do that because we measure backwards. That's how we get confidence. But equally, how to forecast into the next year. Now, vision is probably the most important thing that you can focus on over the next couple of weeks. It's like really intentionally crafting a vision. Now, if there's anything that I've observed in the people I've coached, the people I've modeled, the people I've worked with, the people I've paid for coaching, is that intentionality, being intentional with how you create a vision and then turn it into actions is so important. So if you don't do this process of looking back on the year and forecasting what you want to create next year, you're going to be having the same results as you did last year. And no one wants that. You don't want stagnation. So that's actually not why I'm doing the live stream today. I wanted to share something with you that's very, very prevalent with me personally. I've seen it in clients at the moment, and just really reflecting on what has stopped me in the past from hitting my goals and targets. And here's something I've really gone deep into probably over the last 3 years is learning that it's not the lack of vision. It's not the lack of wanting to achieve something. Like if you're watching this stream or if you listen to this podcast, you'll know that in the past that you've wanted big things. You wanted marriage, you wanted relationships, you wanted a house, you wanted a job, you wanted something that was of great value to you. But there's been times where you haven't achieved that. And why is that? Why is that we don't achieve our goals? Well, the reason that we don't achieve our goals is not because of the pathway to the goal is hard. It's because we are presented with pathways to lesser goals. And what this means is, for example, I used to own a gym, and when I was running the gym, say I wanted to make more profit in that year. I was like, do you know what? This year I'm gonna make more profit. I want to be in a more effective gym. That's my goal. But the pathway to a lesser goal was I don't want to upset clients. That was the lesser goal. That was a goal for me. I don't want to upset clients. I don't want to annoy people. I don't want to. So what then I created was a victim narrative that people don't have the money to invest. It's an inner obstacle I created as a victim narrative. Poor me, I live in this part of the world where no one wants to invest in body transformation, yada, 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 yada. And that's what we do. We create a pathway to a lesser goal, which stops us achieving our goal. And what I wanted to share with you is 5 of the many ways that you may sabotage yourself when it comes to creating your goals this year. And why am I sharing this? Well, if I'm honest, sometimes creating a vision is pretty easy. It's like you look at your year, you look at what you want to achieve, but so many people don't do the necessary work to spot the obstacles that are going to show up. It's almost like this is ridiculous. It's almost like saying I'm going to train for a marathon and I'm not expecting to get some sort of injury or illness or be held back in some way. It's all going to be plain sailing. If you think about this, it's crazy if you were ever to think about that. I'm going to build my business and it's going to be problem free. It's very attractive to think like that, but it's not pragmatic. So what I wanted to share with you is some of the ways that you will experience inner obstacles as you summon them with these big goals. And then what I mean by that is if you look at any hero's journey film, if you ever look at a hero's journey film, the moment the hero decides to go out on the quest, summons the demon, the obstacle, the tyrant, the villain, whatever it is, at the same moment. And that's exactly what's going to happen with your goals. You'll have a vision of what you want to create this year. And at the very same moment, when you're about to grow, you're going to summon all of these inner obstacles that have got in your way in the past. And what I want selfishly for you to be able to do is spot them and label them. So I was going to give you an example of one that's very prevalent for me, something I've contended with for a lot of my life, is impulse control. every time I sit down to write something, maybe my morning email, maybe it's to do a video like this or whatever it is, I get this overwhelming desire to do something different, whether that's scroll on my phone, check email, do something that's totally unrelated to the thing that I'm trying to do. And there's a problem with this. There's a real problem with this, is that the part of you which is trying to block you and stop you from achieving your goal is the very part of you which is trying to steal your attention to that lesser goal. Oh, if I check email, if I scroll, if I check on who's liked my last post, if I check the metrics from my last email or look at my whatever, check something, but the time spent doing that is going to inhibit you doing the thing that's going to grow you, that's hard, that's difficult. And that was something I contended with for years. And so many of my clients who have reported having ADD, ADHD, neurodivergent clients who've come to me and said, like, honestly, I get in my own way. Part of the work that we've done is help them spot that impulse shows up right at the moment they're about to move forwards. And when I think that we reframe it like that, it's really, really powerful. So what I want you to do is, like, as I'm sharing these, I think they're going to be really helpful for you, is to spot what are maybe some of the symptoms that you experience as you move towards the goals that you have for your life and your work and your relationship this year. So here's the first one. And this is something I haven't really talked about a lot, because obviously I share this stuff quite frequently because I think it is such a big part of goal achievement. And the one that I actually spotted this year was degradation of relationships. Now, your inner enemy, the part of you which wants you to fail and not move forwards, is there to do anything possible to inhibit your flourishing. What that means is that it will do anything to sabotage things that will put you in a state, in a place to move forward in your life. Now, this could be cannibalizing some of the most precious relationships in your life. Now, observe this. Who is it that we often villainize and get pissed off about and get frustrated about the most in our life? It's the relationships that mean the most to us. Our partner, spouse, our wife, husband, mother, father, business partner. If you think about this, and this is something like, even our closest friends, and I was sharing this with Pete over Christmas dinner, is that I've had moments, quite needy moments, quite self-confessed, where I've texted a friend and they haven't texted back. And in the space of the time that I was expecting them to text me back, and when they actually have, I've created all sorts of negative narratives about how they're not a good friend, how they're lazy, how they don't respect my time or my energy, that I shouldn't bother with them. All this like absolute barrage of BS narrative. And it's really crazy, but that is that part of me at work. Like, if there's a narrative in my head about a relationship which is all toxic and carcinogenic, and it really destroys that relationship isn't going to grow, especially if I believe it. And what I've started to realize and what I've started to spot, and I was actually talking about this openly with Pete the other day, was like that when that shows up, it's when I absolutely need that support system. I need my friends, I need my partner, I need my business associates, maybe my clients, whoever it is, where that narrative shows up, that is a mirror, it's a reflection that I need to push towards those relationships. I need to keep giving to those relationships, even when I feel that they don't give back. And that's something that was a major shift for me in 2024. Make sure you spot that. That for me was really helpful. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I did that as much as I did until I started to see it. And now I almost laugh. Well, actually, one of the ways to fight against this inner enemy is to laugh at the ridiculousness of how it presents these inner obstacles. It's like my best friend in the world, Lee, he's such a good friend to me. If I text him and I'm like, and then there was a gap in between when he texted me and didn't text back. And I was like, I made such a ridiculous narrative. And I was like, Ben, this is ridiculous. And I said it out loud and it was gone. So That's the first one, the degradation of relationships, which is where you create a villain story about the friend, relative, co-worker, colleague, boss, whoever it is. That for me was the biggest insight of the inner obstacle that shows up for me when I'm about to move forward, especially. And when I say move forwards, this is really important. A lot of people come into coaching and work with me as a coach because not just because they want to make more money, which they do, not because they want more time, it's they want deeper connection. They felt disconnected from their partner. They felt disconnected from their business partner or their clients. And people are always looking for connection. Now, if you think about it, if that narrative is playing in the background and you can't spot it and you can't label it, it will degrade your relationships enormously. So the second one is that doing a little won't matter. Now, again, this is a new one I've started seeing more in myself and in clients, is that an inner obstacle that will present itself to you is that all of your actions need to be massive. They need to be grand gestures of where you do something huge to get something started. Years ago, my mum, I was actually, talking about this the other day. My mum she got leukemia, she had a stroke, and she had pneumonia all at the same time. It was like, honestly, never would have known how she got through that experience. Speaking to the consultant, he said to me, Ben, the way that you're going to get through this is not the fast way, because he knew what I did. He said, it's start low, go slow, aim high. And this mindset is how you overcome this inner obstacle. Your inner obstacles will continuously remind you that these actions that will change your life are going to be big, sweeping, grand gestures, like where you do these massive gestures of love and kindness and appreciation for your partner, where it's all well over the top, where actually the biggest gestures or the most meaningful gestures are the tiny little things that you do regularly towards your partner. Now, this is, for example, me trying to pacify a problem in my relationship with Poppy by taking her on this big date and showing to the world how much I love her, and then going back to doing nothing around the house or being mean to her or being not validating her or listening to her, thinking that's going to work. But what actually really is important is the tiny things done frequently. But your part X, your inner enemy, your obstacle, your inner obstacle will convince you that it's the opposite. So that's something that's really, really helpful, especially if you're going on a body transformation journey over the next 12 weeks, 12 months. Remind yourself that the tiny things count. That is so important. Getting out of bed at the right time, putting on your clothes, going to a training session when you don't want to go. It builds momentum, and that momentum is what will keep you going. But your inner enemy, your inner obstacles know how dangerous momentum is to you staying the same and safe. So everything that you're trying to do to create momentum will be cannibalized by this narrative. So that is doing a little thing won't matter. Only the big actions count. That was amazing. That's magic for me. I really, really got a lot of value from learning that. So that I need to take action on low level things now. Again, I talked about impulse before. It's where you are presented with I worked with Benjamin Hardy over the last 12 weeks, and this is something that I really embodied from the way that he thought, is that every single day we have a certain allocated amount of hours. Now, if I prioritize the tiny things, such as answering email, getting back to clients, getting back to thinking over the things that I need to put in place first, like creating training, something that I invest in the business, doing something that's going to stop me having to react to messages or something like building something that's of value. Unless I prioritize that, I'm going to spend all my time in a reactionary state. So the way I share this quite often is creation before reaction. Now, what the biggest problem is that we are bombarded with notifications, calls, emails, stories, everything, priorities that are pushed into our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors every single day. Now, if you think about this, you've got to get very disciplined structurally to then say at 9 o'clock, I'm going to create something every day. And this is where probably this year over every other year, I've done this the best and I've been the most successful with this, is at 9 o'clock, it's creation time. It's something that's going to be really, really valuable if I create at this time instead of react at this time. So what this has taught me to do is push the notifications, the reactionary stuff towards the second half of my day. And what I've actually, there's actually one of the things I learned over the last couple of years is sometimes the best action is no action. Like sometimes it's paradoxical. Sometimes the best action is action right now. But sometimes there are things that we get impulses to do that we can just push aside and say, I don't need to act upon that right now. And that for me, that delayed gratification of acting on something tiny right now has really helped me create momentum. So that's impulse. So look out for impulses. Now, if you've labeled yourself as someone with ADD, ADHD, neurodivergent, it's probably going to be top of your list. It's probably going to be right up there, impulses. And so I was sharing with a client the other day is that I pretty much have an office where I can't see anything. I normally close the curtains. It's just me and the camera or me and the laptop. And I really focus on the thing that's going to help me get the biggest bang for my buck in terms of creation. So think about how you're setting up your environment for that. For me, sat in a coffee shop with people coming in and out the door, nightmare. Honestly, the ability to focus drops right down. So that's a really important one to engineer, which is your environment. Here's the next one. So that you personally have more challenges than anyone else out there. Wow. Now, let's slow down with this one. A victim believes that they have personally been singled out for a hard life. Now, let me say that again and slower, and let's give it some context. A victim believes that they've been personally singled out to have a harder life than the people around them. So what a victim will do, will see someone who's got great success and believe that they were lucky. They were born into wealth. They had that lucky reel that went viral, or they had that lucky promotion because they slept with a boss. Whatever it is, the victim will create a narrative that people are successful in the gym because they're on steroids, or people are doing really well at their running or their athletics because they're talented. And what they ignore is that each of these people that are winning made a decision to be intentional and create a compound effect of success. The pathway that they chose is irrelevant. That person was intentional about creating success. And for years, when I'd see guys in Lamborghinis or guys with incredible bodies or even success that I didn't quite understand, I would create this narrative that they were lucky, they had the genetics, that they were born into the right geographic location or whatever it was. I've done that. I can imagine you've done it too. I was creating this victim narrative. Poor Ben, I've been personally singled out in my business to have a hard time. And actually, the truth of the matter, the real truth of the matter, I had a great location. I had really low rent. I had a great reputation. And there was so many things in my favor. But I think if I look back in my 20s, I created so many victim narratives that really held me back. And it wasn't until I really engaged in deep coaching to start seeing that for what it was, is that my life and my business transformed. Honestly, it's hilarious, some of the things I look back on and go, wow, did I really tell myself that story? And I can imagine that could be for you too. So that a victim narrative is an inner obstacle. It's where you have almost denied yourself the opportunity to succeed because you've told yourself you haven't got the genes, the success, the money, the intellect. And the intellect's a great one. I would tell myself that people who had succeeded were more intelligent than me, that were more better read than me, until I saw so many people on the internet doing really, really well, and they knew half as much as I did. I educated myself for years. I was like, how on earth have these people become super successful? They'd done the basics consistently. They'd shown up every single day. And so that was humbling. So look at what your victim narratives are, because they are some of the biggest inner obstacles that you will face. I'm female. I'm an expat in Dubai. All these things, like we put these limiting stories upon ourselves, and they have truth. There may be some truth to them, but at the same time, they will inhibit you over the possibility of telling a different story. The final one, and this is something I was talking about with Poppy today, paradoxically, doing the thing gives you the energy. Now, the inner obstacle that this one is energy. It's you tell yourself that going to the gym, sitting with that client, the packed diary of appointments is going to take energy away. And when you are on the near side of that, when you look at that and you see your calendar that's full of appointments, conversations, sales calls. I've done it with sales calls. I saw a whole day of sales calls and I remember checking in with myself, like, oh, maybe if someone doesn't show up or maybe if someone cancels last minute, that's going to give me enough time to get my energy back. And when I look back at that years ago, it was this inner obstacle. When what I've realized, especially with my own training and exercise and health, is that what going running in the desert in the morning does for me is it gives me energy for the day. What turning towards the hard thing does is gives me energy. It gives me energy for the rest of the day. So someone asked me what am I training for the other day. I'm training to be energetic for my kids, my business, and to feel great for my clients and my family and all those things. So if you think about this, is that not training in the morning, the days that I don't train and I don't go and do the hard thing in the morning, there is a substantially lower level of energy that I bring to those conversations. So think about this when it comes to setting your goals for 2025, is that doing the thing that you don't want to do, prioritizing that is going to give you way more energy. Now, look at anyone who's on purpose, on a mission, achieving things, they will be full of energy. Like most days, I will go from 5 a.m. to like 9 p.m. full of energy because I've been turning towards the things that are hard, that I'm like maybe that I find a challenge, that I find my edge and all those things. And honestly, my life has got significantly different when I've started to see it like that. And it's not that you're going to be exonerated from that as well. So you're not going to get to this point where one day you'll see your calendar full of appointments and you'll be absolved of having that short-term 1 to 2 second feeling where you say, oh, gosh, there's so much on my plate today. Like that will still show up. That is still going to be there. But what I'm going to invite you to do is actually remind yourself in that moment, like see yourself running towards that dark cloud of challenge and negativity and pain, and that drives you up and forwards into your life. Like it's called bring it on mindset. Bring it on. I love challenge. I love appointments. They set me free. There's so many tools that I use with clients to help them see this. Like one of the ones I use when I'm running in the desert is I just see a vortex of energy just flowing into me. And honestly, it sounds really abstract, but that has been significant for me. It's like using these higher level thinking tools to help motivate and inspire and energize me when I need it most, because you're going to get those points in the long run, in a long day of work, a relationship battle, a business project or goal where you're going to experience low energy. But it's how do you respond and create in those moments, which is going to be the measure and the test of you in 2025. They're just some of the inner obstacles you're going to experience. I think that, I've got probably like 15, 20 of them. That's a big part of what I teach my clients. I think this is like, it's not something that's like a two-way conversation. I often just teach this because I think that when you've got the ability to create a big vision and you're able to spot those inner obstacles, what you do, I think the real insight for me, it's like putting your foot on the accelerator, but you're able to remove the brake really quickly. And I think what's going to happen, especially for so many people over the next couple of weeks, is the vision and like the aspirational things that they want to achieve, they're going to be revving the car engine. They're going to be revving like, oh yeah, I can't wait to go. I can't wait to go. But what's going to happen incrementally is that all of these inner obstacles are going to push down the brakes. So you're going to feel frustrated. You're going to be getting in your own way. You're going to feel like you're never going to get there. And what that then does, it lowers your confidence that you're going to achieve it. Oh, it's the same thing as last year. I've run out of motivation, got sidetracked, whatever it is. So here's what I would do next. So enjoy writing out your vision over the next couple of days and maybe even the next week or two. If you want help with that, I'm going to be doing a training where I'm going to show you how to create a vision and turn it into small actions. Just write me the vision and I'll send you the details about that. Honestly, it's going to be super helpful. I'm doing it with my clients next Tuesday. The second thing is that start to learn that as you summon that vision, and as you start to see that goal, you're going to experience obstacles. It's inevitable. You're not going to be absolved from that. It's very rare where I've ever seen a client go on a process of change and transformation it's never happened. It's never, ever happened. I've never seen someone partake in a process of transformation without being thwarted with all of these inner obstacles. And then obviously there's a whole load of outer obstacles as well, money, time, geography, all that sort of stuff. Cover that in a different training. Thank you so much for listening in and watching this podcast. Maybe you've watched on Instagram. I've just tried a little something different today. I've shared it on Instagram as we've been doing this. If you want to listen to more of the stuff that I've shared over the last year, head on over to Spotify, and it's called A Mile Deep with Benjamin Owen. It's where I'm sharing some of the insights I get from coaching business owners, leaders, people that are trying to create massive change in themselves and the world that we live in. And got some really exciting stuff coming in the podcast over the next 12 months. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.